For over 30 years, I've fished baitcasters the exact same way. Cast right-handed, pass the reel and rod to my left hand, and then reel right-handed. Never really questioned it. And honestly, once that muscle memory gets built, it feels automatic. But I recently realized something that made absolutely no sense to me. Every spinning reel I own, I keep the handle on the left side, and I cast right-handed and reel left-handed. No hand switch, no rod shuffle, just cast and instantly engage the reel. And the more I started thinking about it, the weirder it got to me, because mechanically, left-handed retrieve actually seems like it should make more sense than right-handed retrieve for a right-handed angler. So I finally did something I've never done before. I went out and I bought a left-handed retrieve baitcaster, a Daiwa Tatula SV100. And before I even make the first cast with it, I want to break down why I think this might actually matter more than most anglers realize. Because there is one situation where I think right-handed anglers may actually be at a disadvantage, and most people never even think about it. Okay, now before anybody gets defensive, I'm not saying right-handed retrieve is wrong for right-handed angling. Clearly it works. I've done it myself for decades and caught lots of fish that way. And honestly, once that muscle memory gets built, the hand switch becomes automatic. But mechanically, it kind of seems strange when you stop and think about it. Because if you're right-handed, your dominant hand is usually stronger, faster, and more coordinated. And yet most bait casting anglers cast with their dominant hand and then immediately take the rod and switch it over to your non-dominant hand. Which is interesting because the rod hand, the non-dominant hand for a right-handed angler using a right-handed retrieve reel, is doing all the important work. It's managing the lure, the hook set, the fish control, bite detection, all of that in your non-dominant hand. Meanwhile, your dominant hand is mostly just turning a handle. And honestly, left-handed retrieve baitcasters didn't really become common until the late 1990s, early 2000s. So a lot of anglers simply learned on what was available at the time. And once that muscle memory gets built, it sticks. It sticks. But there's another part of this most anglers never really think about. Some of the most aggressive strikes happen the instant the lure hits the water. Think about like spinnerbaits, chatterbaits, buzzbaits, topwater, swim jigs. Fish don't wait. And when you're switching hands after every cast, there's a dead zone. Maybe it's only a fraction of a second, but if the fish hits during that hand transfer, you're reacting at an awkward position. That's the splashdown window. And it's the first real mechanical argument for a left-handed retrieve reel for a right-handed angler. With a left-handed setup, a right-handed angler can cast instantly, engage the reel, and stay connected. No shuffle, no transfer, no dead zone. And if you already fish spinning gear, left-handed retrieve, you already know exactly what this feels like. Or at least I think you do. If this is starting to click, hit subscribe. Every week I break down stuff that actually makes a difference in real-world performance, both with gear and on the water. So you're not just guessing every time you go out. Okay, now let's hit the water and test this left-handed retrieve setup. So I finally got this thing out on the water. And I'll be honest, this was not even close to what I expected. Casting, that part was completely fine. I've always casted with my right hand, so nothing changed there. The casting is exactly the same. That felt normal immediately, which honestly made this even more frustrating because the second the lure hit the water, everything else fell apart for me. The problem wasn't the cast, the problem was everything after it. Reeling with my left hand, I was completely uncoordinated. I was kind of moving the rod at the same time I was reeling. But I'm definitely sloppy from a reeling standpoint right now. In all honesty, it's really kind of awkward. I think I can probably get used to it, but cranking the handle is awkward. Reeling with my left hand, I was completely uncoordinated. But at the same time, my right hand, the one holding the rod, also started feeling uncoordinated. I couldn't hold the rod steady while I was reeling. Every time I turned the handle, the rod tip would move. And that's something you don't really think about until it starts messing with your presentation. But using my right hand to manage the rod, where I've managed the rod for 30 years with my left hand for a baitcaster, is really, really odd. It's interesting. Also, I don't have great control over the rod, and I feel really, really sloppy with it. And here's the part that made absolutely no sense to me at all. I already fished spinning reels, left-handed retrieve, no issues, no coordination problem, everything feels natural. But this, it felt like I'd never fished before. I fished this setup about 6 hours over a couple of days, and yeah, I got a little bit better at it, but not much, if I'm being honest. The best way I could describe this is it felt like trying to write my name left-handed. You can do it, but it's slow, it's awkward, and it doesn't look right. And because of that, I missed fish. I had quite a few strikes, and it just wasn't clean on the hook set. And that's where it really started to matter. Because now we're not talking about theory anymore, we're talking about actual catching fish. And honestly, this is where the whole idea started to break down a little bit, because everything we talked about earlier still makes sense mechanically. But the execution, that's a completely different story. So I started digging into it a little bit more, because clearly this isn't just preference, this is muscle memory. And the research is actually pretty consistent on this. To even start becoming comfortable with movement like this, you're looking at roughly 10 to 20 hours of use and spread out over a couple of weeks. You need to spend 15 minutes at a time is what the research says, and you will become functional. But to get back to the level of efficiency you already have if you cast right-handed and reel right-handed and you've been doing it for years, that can take months. So now the question becomes, is it actually worth it? Because on paper, left-handed retrieve still makes a lot of sense for a right-handed angler. The splashdown window, the instant engagement, keeping the rod in your dominant hand, none of that changed. But what I didn't factor in was how deeply trained that hand switch actually was for me. 30 years of doing something one way, it's not a small thing to undo. So where did I land on this in the end? Well, right now, I'm not switching everything over, not even close. Because for me, the efficiency I already have with right-handed retrieve, it really far outweighs the theoretical advantages, at least in the short term. I've got this reel now, I'm gonna keep playing with it, I'm gonna keep using it and see how it develops over time. But I also don't think the idea is wrong, not by a long shot. I think that if someone is starting from scratch today, a left-handed retrieve reel probably makes more sense for a right-handed angler. If you fish baitcasters, I want to know how you do it. Do you switch hands after you cast? Or keep the rod in the dominant hand after you cast? And if you've tried to switch, was it worth it? How long did it take? Because honestly, this turned out to be way more complicated than I expected. No hype, no gimmicks.